In the next conversation, Yuval Karni will ask the Homeland Security Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir whether the changes they introduced to the conditions of the security prisoners and whether they led to a real change, and how he will deal with the loss of governance. Hello, head of Otzma Yehudit, Minister Itamar Ben-Gvir. Hello. I have my questions on the cards, but I have to ask you about things that Naftali Bennett says, and he says that you cause reputational terrorism for us around the world. But I think that Naftali Bennett himself caused the worst reputational terrorism for us around the world by legitimizing a Muslim party of the Muslim Brotherhood that is said to be the most extreme in the world. Yeah, but Benjamin Netanyahu did that. I do have criticism against Benjamin Netanyahu as well, but ultimately, the one who made it a legitimate partner was Naftali Bennett and sat in the government with that party. So we're nearing 3 years for the October 7th massacre. In the first year, Netanyahu promised absolute victory. Why has Hamas not been overcome in Gaza? Of course, I have criticism on that as well, and yesterday I was the only one who voted in the cabinet against the peace council and bringing them into to Gaza. There's no council, there's no peace, but we need to beat the Hamas. But Netanyahu also did good things. Today, after 2.5 years, we have 63% of Gaza's territory. We killed Khamenei and Nasrallah. And we did a lot in the Middle East. There is still things to do. But Hamas hasn't been defeated. That promise was not fulfilled. Right, and that's why I need to be very strong in the next election, so the next time I will be able to realize that promise. Yes, we killed 40,000 terrorists. We did a lot. But the solution is not a peace council. There's no dialogue there. We need to beat Hamas. We need to encourage immigration. And Netanyahu can do it. I think with a stronger Otzma Yehudit, he'll be able to do it. When you say encouraging immigration as part of defeating Hamas, do you think that also settling in Gaza Strip is a part of the plan for defeating Hamas? Absolutely. There is no vacuum. I see the neighborhoods of soldiers and policemen and officers. Do you mean only the IDF? No, also civilians. This is exactly the reputational terrorism that Naftali Bennett is talking about. He's saying that we're driven by revenge and we want to take over the territory. Maybe the disengagement and our leaving the Gaza Strip and telling the world that it's not ours, maybe that was what caused the terror state, the rockets, and Hamastan. And I said, don't give them wars in Oslo. I said, don't give them an army force. Don't give them guns. If this would have happened during the change government, would you have required that they step down? Yes, but under my rule, the police functioned the best. 1 week before October 7th, you yourself posted a story saying that people were requiring that I be removed from office, like a cabinet with Ben-Gvir is like a kindergarten. He wants to bomb Gaza all the time. If they'd listened to me then, maybe we wouldn't have had October 7th. But for that, you're saying that the October 7th could have been prevented. And I want a national state of commission, but I wanted to also investigate the court and the attorney general. Yes, we need to investigate everyone because they all failed. Since I took office as Homeland Security, do you know what I saw in the prisons? And you're right, it's all the generations, it's all the governments, Bennett, Lieberman, the Labour and Likud, and you see terrorists playing ping pong. And you ask, who is that? And he murdered parents, he murdered the children, he heard the cry of a baby, he slit the throat of a baby, and he got chocolate and academic studies and pina colada. Now, will that, yes, but will that deter terrorism? Will a terrorist be afraid of Ben-Gvir, and that's why they won't murder Jews? I think so, yes. In the last few months, the terrorist Marwan Barghouti is approaching the Arab parties through his lawyers, saying them, unite, because only then will we be able to stop and bring back the conditions in the Israeli prisons to what they were before. And he's worried about himself and his soldiers in the prison. They want to get me out of being out of the office of Homeland Security. They want to get back to having their chocolates and marmalades. And how do you know what Barghouti is saying to the Arab parties? I know. It's unequivocal. The terrorist Marwan Barghouti gave a message through his lawyers and told them, unite, tell the parties, tell Mansour and Ahmed Tibi and Ayman Od and Balad, all of them, unite so that we can get this Ben-Gvir out. This is in the last few months. It's happening, and I'm telling you, to me, are you eavesdropping on the conversations with the lawyers? This is the sign to me that I was right and I am right. And everything that I did in the prisons 9 times, they tried to kill me because they know. And yes, absolutely, it's also the Likud government. They know with me they won't have cushy conditions in the prisons. Israel was a paradise for terrorists. Since you mentioned that, the crocodile story has become a laughing stock online. Is that serious, or is it part of the joke? You called me the Minister of Pitot, and now the Shabak admits that what I did has reduced the terror attack. I opened fast alert teams. I did a lot. Were you wrong with the crocodiles? Not only was I not wrong, the crocodiles are wetting themselves at night because they're afraid of the crocodiles. They're afraid they will bring crocodiles. How do you know that? What do you mean? Of course I know. Everybody's afraid of crocodiles. You can also put a tiger there and a lion. Absolutely, that's what I want. That is my dream, and that's what I managed to do in my terms of office, that the terrorists will be afraid, and it's very good that they're afraid. We're in the National Security Conference, and I want to ask you also about Iran. We've had 2 rounds. We were so close to a 3rd round, according to all the publications in the media, both in Israel and the United States. Is that policy? Rounds instead of determination? I criticized Netanyahu, but I also want to say some good things about it. He managed to do a lot of good in Iran. There's still a lot to do, but for that we need yet another round and another round. My position is very clear, and I say it everywhere, also in the cabinet. Ultimately, that regime is a Nazi regime that wants to eliminate your children and mine, and we can't accept their existence. They will succeed ultimately. So how do we defeat Iran? How do we change the regime in Iran? The Prime Minister Netanyahu, I want to give him credit. He deserves credit. we're not talking about what we can do. We are doing, and we need to do even more. I hope that Donald Trump, the U.S. president, will be convinced to stop his diplomacy. It's naive. You can't be diplomatic with them. You can't talk to them. You can't hold discussions and negotiations with them. The Iranians, you have to talk to them through the site, the gun site. But Donald Trump is a businessman. Yeah, but he's very naive about Iran. Do you think we're facing an intifada in Judea and Samaria? There is no doubt that the situation there is deteriorating. But just like the opening fire procedures are very clear, the soldiers need to be given more liberty. I saw the reel from Chavat Gilad with the soldiers. I love them. I have no criticism against them, but the policy needs to be that in such a situation, if they throw stones at you or Molotov cocktails, shoot. They need to be able to shoot, but it can also lead to an intifada, deterioration. I don't think that the terrorist needs to emerge alive, but you can't, for every single one who comes to protest or have a conflict. Yeah, but this is the Security Council, the Security Conference. My security concept has proven itself. Give more guns, more pistols, more rapid response units. Be hard with the terrorists, not the protesters. Be harder with those who throw stones and Molotov cocktails. That's how it works. And how do you respond to those who say you need to distinguish between those who attack or those who defend themselves, but also among the settlers? There are the few among the settlers, the Jewish terrorism. That's what they do. No, I come from Judea and Samaria. Have you never seen irregular activity? Yes, of course, and some cross the line, and they need to be handled. I'm absolutely with you. But who does the terrorist attacks and throws the Molotov cocktails and the bombs and tries to shoot people? Come on, you can't make the victim into the defendant all the time. It doesn't work. So I don't know how much the viewers see this, but on your jacket there is still the pin with the hanging rope. And you wanted the death penalty for the terrorists. Yes, at the moment, yes, it can be done. Thank God. Right now, when there are terrorists, we kill them in the field, and that's great. But once they're captured, 80% of them come from Judea and Samaria. If they're terrorists, yes, we can execute them. There's a hearing at the High Court of Justice that will be in 4 months' time. But no, it's for good reason that the terrorist attacks is down 85% because of the army's work and the Shabak's work. The terrorists know that they're going to die, and they know. No, I thought the same. But when I went to the Damun prison of female terrorists, and she came to me and she said, "Give us perfume. I need my perfume." And I realized that moment that if she wants her perfume, she wants to live. There are the 5% who want to die, but 95% of them want to live. They thought they'd get a Hilton in the Israeli prison, and I took all of those conditions away. You listen to me, Yuval, when we talk about security, the more you give to your enemies, but the stronger you are, the weaker they become. If I would have been very happy to execute the capital penalty for terrorists, I think the penalty needs to be given to those who killed hostages and families. I made the hostages' families into supervisors of the conditions of the terrorists in prison. I took the victims. They should oversee the conditions of the terrorists in prisoners, not international humanitarian aid. Why? Why can we let the humanitarian society in Israel in and not them? My dream is if the victims of terrorist attacks, they should execute the capital punishment, and they're lining up to do it. That's justice. When people say the Ben-Gvir police, is that a compliment or an insult? If you mean that I intervene in investigations and I call policemen, that's a lie. I don't do that. But if I dictate policy, of course, that's my job. You've known me for many years. Some ministers are there for the ceremonies and to cut the ribbon. I'm there to affect policy. And yes, I made appointments. Of course I intervene in appointments. Who will? Her grandmother, the Attorney General's grandmother, who? Gali Barav-Miara, the Attorney General, said that you cross the line in your intervention in police work, and your work is illegal. And she says your intervention has crossed all lines. And I ask you, what if the High Court of Justice will strike you out from being a Minister of Homeland Defense? Where I say that 1,000 terrorists should be killed rather than one soldier. When I speak, but she's the Attorney General. I think she should have been terminated a long time ago. And I criticize the fact that she's still invited to cabinet meetings. People who were victims of protection, and I sympathize with them. But when you talk to senior officers, yes, he's my secretary, my professional secretary. But that is not the job of the Homeland Security Minister. What minister intervened in police investigations? How do you have the investigator and the complainant on both sides of the line? No, but before that I have thousands of calls with civilians, thousands of calls from civilians who were victims of protection. I promised that the police will take care of it, and I talked to the chief of police, and I said, yes, we need to take care of this. For too many years, there have been. I'm available to everyone. I'm not a detached minister. I speak to everyone. If the High Court of Justice will rule you out, this is the biggest constitutional crisis, if that will happen, because the High Court of Justice, even according to its own case law, and by the way, it's not that they can't do that. To take a minister where the only problem with him is that the Attorney General doesn't like my positions and opinions, and the fact that I speak to complainants. I heard Benjamin Netanyahu say that he won't terminate me. Okay, are you prepared to take on Smotrich in the coming elections? First of all, I want to congratulate Smotrich for the primaries that they held. It's a parlor meeting. It's 170 people. He's recovering. There's a very big difference between us, even though you don't always make the distinction. Smotrich wants to represent religious Zionism, and I want to do that as well. But I represent the seculars and the traditionalists. I'm Itamar of the whole state of Israel. Is he sectorial? He says himself that he applies to a certain subsector in the religious Zionism. I target them as well. But it's not a matter of taking him. He needs to run with his friends, and hopefully he'll be able to bring 5 or 6 seats in the Knesset. I apply to the whole public of Israel. I want a large party, 15 to 17 seats. The state of Israel is in the heart of a Muslim population, a lot of which will not accept our existence here. What is your solution? I would encourage immigration, both in Gaza, both in Judea and Samaria, but that is messianic. since Trump said something about immigration, you all celebrated this voluntary immigration, not one Palestinian. There was no such plan. My mother, who was in the Etzel, told me, she said it was messianic, that they want to establish a state here, and they did. These ideas that you call messianic, that is our strength, but it's not happening, and it won't. The fact that we have a Jewish state, and we live in a state that after 2,000 years has come back, yes, some will say it's messianic. I think that it's the best thing to do, to build here a Jewish state with minorities, with Arabs who love us, that have no problem with the state of Israel. Ahlan wa sahlan. I have Muslim policemen, but those who throw stones or Molotov cocktails or fly the Palestinian flag, they should leave. Thank you.